1, 2. I'm good on levels.
There's enough of us here. We just hand things off.
We'll keep checking the mics while we're up here. Someone's up here checking the mics. Check it out. Check it out. 9 to 5.
Checking it up. Checking it up.
9 to 5.
Thanks, Gary.
That's where we were, right by the bank.
Okay, everyone's got a white, and our mics are good? Mics are good? Check, 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 check. Final check.
Can you laugh for us?
Oh, come on. Really? I'm not performing up here.
Oh, that was funny.
You just have to tell a funny joke.
Yeah, that was funny. You didn't laugh.
That was funny.
That was always Louis Anderson's best line, wasn't it? Actually, that is
And we rode our bikes.
Louis Anderson.
And then there was a yeah, and we
Last time I
friends that
saw
were
him, he
over,
was right
so
next to me
there
in the
was
bathroom.
like 9 of us.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
And
How many hours?
Just got there right
Oh,
before.
yeah, he just put it
Yeah. So like
Came in,
9
did you kill bathroom? I didn't know he was
got
there.
there, so
I
it
ended up
started
going
right at 10,
yeah,
and then it ended at like 10:20.
And then in my head,
So there was a new split dog there, and as I'm right by us, I said, "Don't forget the white balance." I don't know who it was. I couldn't tell. He's like, "Yeah, I did that earlier."
How's it going?
Really?
Just like it should be. I'm like, oh, he went there. I was going. And then
He beat you. Yeah, he's the comedian.
No, but I was like, I'm not gonna, that's a low-hanging joke. Like, am I gonna do that?
Just lean over and say. See if you would have laughed at that one.
Guy in a Ferrari, and I was in Las Vegas a couple months ago, and it's a guy in his Ferrari pulls up to the street light, and we're all waiting for the and then he rolls it around, and I go, he laughed. He just rolled his window up.
You did laugh at that, huh?
Mean at this point.
Do you have a 5 o'clock one?
Oh yeah.
All the
Same.
thoughts.
It's just funny.
This is like all the old.
My day off.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, no, I was hanging in there. That was last night. Yeah. Who you call? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Doing the work. So we already have the chief out here. I really want.
Yeah, I appreciate your work.
Yeah, I'm
I
not.
was thinking that should have been a prerequisite for the job.
Right.
Your name must be Gordon.
Yeah. Tell you what I was disappointed in is that laser show the other night, and I was Okay.
It's kind of weird. Because they were taking me live. They took my hit. I was on the little screen. And right on Don was up on that screen.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And, you know, they're flying. They did like an eagle and the flag and some
I didn't see any of it because it was only about a 5x5 screen.
Yeah. I
I have a bigger projector
now?
in my backyard.
That'll shut them off.
So don't.
What would you do?
Yeah, it's on like 251 situation. Is it like a hold or is it just
right
like
on the screen.
Yeah, it'll shut off. But then when
But
it
then you-
locks in, you want to punch that top one.
this once? Okay, that's a lot of pressure because I can mess this up.
I'm talking to
I'll talk about everything else.
No, they had them. It was like,
Yeah, Yeah, but they weren't overhead, Tim. You're really misexplaining that. It was just, they shot beams of light above everyone's head, and it was only projecting on like the tops of the trees. And doing that.
But I think
No, it was the lamest thing in the entire world. It was super lame.
like I said,
They should
In
do a
fact, I
drone
should
show.
start trying right now.
I've been
Just
to
tell
drone
them.
shows are more expensive. I've been to Laser Floyd and
Drone shows?
Utah has an incredible one because they always have.
But if they're gonna use the price,
Right.
And, yeah.
And if that was even half the cost of a fireworks show, then that's too much.
it was about a third. It's about a third.
I
So
heard,
they
I
did it
heard
to save
half.
money. I thought they did it for air quality.
They did it for all.
They had all those reasons.
All the
but
reasons.
prices
That's
and
fine.
all that.
The animals, the chickadees, they did it for all.
We were saying
Cats are worried
Stephanie
about
should.
running off.
But
You know, the best part about it was if you could see that screen and be tight on the screen, there were a bunch of people dancing in front of it, so I get just silhouettes of them, like raving, raving.
I'm like in the middle down here.
By legalizing marijuana, they thought that everyone was just gonna be.
Right, yeah. Well, they were, and it still is.
I do believe there might have been some particular, at least it smelled that way to me.
Yeah, just plug in right here and I can probably go on it.
Is it going, Jason?
Well, you know, just switch stories last minute.
Anyway.
The news line.
What's your schedule? Are you night side or day side?
On day side. So we're just doing 2 line bits and then the night side takes over.
No package?
No, just hits, just full sets.
Did you want to ready this year if you wanted?
This year was Brandon and I wasn't up for it.
I thought you were ready.
I was, I did. Chris Anthony. And then we won station. Which was nice. I've all the ones I've read.
Trying to get a driver out here for a weekend, just go out on a boat, do something like that.
Yeah.
He and I go over that.
Oh, really? Driver's a good guy.
He keeps sending me like.
Very eclectic individual.
Oh, yeah.
When he won last year, I talked to him for about half an hour. He's been doing it a long time.
I would say he's a bougie guy. He drives like a used Maserati. Like he drives like the door.
Right.
Used.
Hi, this is Matt.
Right. Yeah, he's a character.
Oh, hi, how are you?
I wanted
Give you
him.
the IFB,
Right, I'm like, should I just be ready? Because at this point, I don't know.
Okay, do it in this room?
Just like this person. Or the hallway maybe?
Okay.
I don't know.
Good to know.
Unless this is what?
Actually,
You're five, right?
5, right at the top.
Because they actually told me 4:30, and I said, oh, that's a bad
You
decision.
said-
We're never gonna make
You
it.
said no.
And this was at 2 o'clock this afternoon.
No, yeah. No, no, no.
The civil stuff.
But I'm off the top of 5. So,
We'll, when this ends, we'll make a decision.
right.
If we go right in the hall, I have everything here, so. Either we do it outside or right here.
They sent one guy to quite a bit.
Yeah, we send 1 or 2 people to ASW every year. Usually don't do, we usually don't do Norman.
Yeah.
But if somebody wanted to, try to figure it out.
450.
Normally years ago.
I need a chair for waiting that long.
Yeah, ASW is nice because it's fully immersive. And it's
I was gonna say
I'm on the
4:30.
faculty, guys on the faculty, so it's like, there's only like 30
Hey, Norcus.
attendees and we have 6 faculty
Somebody
members, so you get
has to
one-on-one
check the
time.
level on your tripod.
The what?
Check if it's level.
It cost me about 25.
I will when someone's up there. It's gonna be fine.
Too bad.
Just the messenger.
Because you got a week more. That's what gets up there.
I'm cutting the damn 5 PM right now.
I know.
Right.
Hey, we all pitch in like $200 or something like that. And we'll go in and do it. But if you really like get to know each other,
Well, Norman used to have that roommate situation. I don't know
See,
what
that's
that
what
was
I did
at.
10 years ago when I went. I think I stayed in like, it was student housing.
Right,
And
right.
it was like, it's cheap, so I think I spent like $700, like on the whole weekend.
Right.
That's almost as good as when you're 2 minutes from your live shot and the desk calls you, hey, there's something wrong with your audio.
Yeah.
I know, I'm working on it, damn it.
CBS and PPA are like, hey, we'll fly you here until
We can do it.
That's what I was like, for him.
You should run a workshop.
I
We
always
used
say,
to run one.
yes,
Bill
I'm working
used
on
to
it,
run
and you just wasted 30
Study
seconds of my
manufacturing,
time.
we see that every year.
Well, that's what it is.
We just haven't brought back
Literally
as
is.
many places. Take it on. It's a lot to do a workshop.
It's tough because we're still C6 right now. And PPA's tab.
That
Oh, I know, trust me. So it's like, here's like a couple of us. We're slowly getting more guys. My guys want to join up. They don't want to pay $15.
Guess we probably could have used it more, just one of us.
I just noticed it.
Well, I started sitting there and I was gonna go plug in and then
Well,
wait,
what I
there's
did-
no
I mean,
source.
What I did was I went to our financing, said how much can
I mean, we could have
to do this, and here's why.
Suppose it's recording,
And
so
that's
the
the thing
question
that you
was-
can like
Yeah.
take in the window.
Yeah, but it's, nobody's,
Kind of get
they're
my
most
choice
of
to set amount of money that you can do, is I have to limit it in that capacity, but
I mean, I could
main
put
thing
my
in
mic up there.
is not making
This looks better, it looks more important with 30 mics up there.
To me, it's all the same. And some people want to be in the course and do styles that way, and that's fine, and other people don't, and that's fine too. I think when, the thing that hurts is when you have.
Remember the Boston Marathon bombing?
This is the way it is. Whatever is like.
I know.
No, I tell my guys, I said, you know what, you don't have to make it back. But learn from it. Just watch. We have this new guy. This is our first. It's not gonna be a whole road every day. Bloomington broadcasting. I'm not so. He doesn't get enough. It's just a show. Still. He's like, hey, I really. That's what it was. So one day I just sent him an email. Watch this guy watch her. One friend from each of these stories. That was the next time we watched the story. Perfect.
She probably knows her, but it's
That
fine.
night, the folks on the corner of the table, hands up,
Making us sweat.
perfect. It's just, you get high herbs. It's like,
Right.
I said, stop shooting interviews. Put something around to shoot. If you're shooting something like a quarter, lock the recorder in. Shoot for check.
Hey, were you able to do my car?
I keep it.
Yeah. Okay, do you have everything?
Oh, that's why I always say, it's just teeth.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Mike.
I'm with you on that. I think that, like I said, that was the biggest thing for me. Is trying not to get too sensitive all is around, and I see value in anyone that doesn't want to be an MVP anymore just as much as someone that does. It's just a different approach. I mean, I find a ton of value in storytelling over anything else, because I think it connects with people more. But
I second that.
Hello.
I think, you know, I know Willis and Carly was never into it, and Willis was, and, yeah, I know. Right.
And my thing is,
Hello.
I'm a competitive guy, so I guess all my other guys, you know, competition is fun, because it makes you want to be better. I'm not saying you're just, you know, crazy. It's just like the little short. Just being able to compete gives you that little bit of endorphin rush.
Trying to like press the button, so I don't mess this up.
I'm waiting to press it.
I know, everybody's waiting to press.
I'm like,
like, is the time?
No, I'm not really competitive in it.
Why does it feel like there's so much more pressure?
I'm not gonna play this one.
I know, I'm like stressed because I'm gonna ruin your entire life.
You're always the episode and everything.
Nobody gets this angle there.
Yeah. It's just like, you know, when it comes time to sign your contract, if you're doing tons of international rows and everything else, it's there's some road that you're scoring.
For years, when I'm fighting to get paid.
Right. I really like that.
From the back.
God damn it.
To 11. For 30 years, we fought for vacation.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Yeah.
out. That's a great one. That's a keeper.
And they could get 3 more cameras in there.
Hello.
Why don't we even set time then?
Yeah.
Hello.
What's time?
We're in progress on replacement. We have a different person that's hired.
Doesn't work for you guys,
Well,
5 o'clock, I can whatever.
well, yeah, I mean.
Well, if it is, I mean, they have to see value, that's the thing. I, for example, I get a raise when I was at POI, and they would come in and get a raise when I was at station. But,
She might have gone to Cleveland. She might have
but,
done-
that being said,
Oh,
the morning did
Yes,
produce all
yeah,
that.
Saturday.
And all my
Oh,
promotions
she's
are
off.
depicted as promotions. You know, but the.
Yeah, she was kind of like,
You know, it's like I've had people things and come over and I just want this. Everyone in there just want that. Like, I'm sorry. So, I mean, you would have to,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like I said,
Okay,
that's,
Oh, that thing was.
yeah, it's just a circus.
Why did the old guy leave?
Any social countries, if you decide that you can, it's like, oh, I'm gonna go
Good.
It's like coming in next on press tour.
Going to Lakeville.
It's like, if I do that, you're
Local.
Have you done anything like in like Minneapolis or St. Paul?
No, Excelsior. That's cool. Excelsior Bay Books last week. Lakeville at the library.
Where is Excelsior Bay Books? Is that
It's
downtown?
like downtown, yeah.
Oh, that's like coffee.
I see the door.
Sure,
on the first
I
scene.
know.
It was a full house though.
Got it.
right now, we're kind of struggling.
The libraries are the best kind of thing.
Do you want this Brittany? Should I send
Sure.
you to it for
At
now?
this point, I'll be rolling out the door and just talking.
Playing video,
Apparently.
showing pictures and stuff, it's easy.
Just if he's not done with the presser, it's time for him to grab that mic right there.
This one?
You know, so you don't get.
Grab,
that's
oh,
why
I,
you start focusing on
yeah, I'm
this.
like, let me just take another station back when I.
Camera shots.
God, this is bad.
Like everything.
But I was so
What library
ready.
went to that? I was like really like long way. Just
Oh,
like
no,
library.
no, balance.
It's
The little one or the
the
home?
old building,
Yeah.
old building's so pretty, and then they just like renovated everything and stuff.
Morgan's putting in.
My first day.
And most of the, staff.
I went there once to
Okay.
get old yearbooks
So
for
my
the story.
sister's in the car.
If you ever use like historical yearbooks from St. Paul High School, they have all of them.
Really?
Also,
Good to
tricky
know.
process being,
It was like a missing person case, you know, and so we was.
Okay, I can't work out.
I have a
Right.
crazy
That's
person.
not my start.
Maybe it was probably.
The other kind of
No, it
characters.
has not started. Yeah.
Right, that's not gonna get on there.
They look
Right.
at.
It is.
There'll be a pain in the ass and
Okay,
there'll be Joe Fryer.
Bye.
It's not really a destination. You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Yeah.
still don't like, oh, I gotta get back to the St. Paul library.
I know.
It's
We literally just like, it was B and read, it was like negative like 10, right before the winter carnival opened.
Yeah.
And so we were just like,
Okay. Button. Oh wait, do I need to hold it? I just did it once. Okay, I see it. One. I see one.
Boy. Try and move this a little bit. There's nothing on this. Can we just take this away? Thank you. So, good afternoon. My name is Brian O'Hara, and I am the Minneapolis Chief of Police. Many of you have seen the social media videos that were circulating online last night of a fully marked Minneapolis police squad car receiving a barrage of fireworks repeatedly in the area of B'day Makaska. An MPD officer manning that car exercised professionalism and extreme restraint under those circumstances. And once the fireworks barrage was over, pursued the individual on foot after the shooting of the fireworks was over, through the crowd, and safely took that person into custody. Yesterday was the 4th of July, and while we encourage all of our residents to celebrate and enjoy our Independence Day of our great country, the targeting of innocent people with fireworks is unlawful, dangerous, and wholly unacceptable. As we saw last night, this behavior is not only a danger to the targets of the unlawful behavior, but it's also a danger to those who choose to engage in this activity themselves. And while there are countless people throughout our city celebrating with fireworks and across the communities around our country, doing so safely and lawfully, this was but one example of 16 individuals that were arrested by members of the MPD last night for so brazenly and recklessly discharging fireworks at vehicles and at people throughout our city. We are very fortunate that there were no serious injuries this year in these incidents because of this egregious behavior. This underscores the incredible challenges Minneapolis police officers were facing throughout the night, simply trying to keep our residents safe. Going into this weekend, the MPD knew we needed to be prepared for this type of activity. We more than doubled our staffing in comparison to July 4th of last year, and we had dozens of additional officers working in various specialty units, and we were also assisted by dozens of Minnesota State Troopers and Hennepin County Sheriff's deputies throughout the night. We were very strategic and took action to close certain roadways, disrupt traffic patterns, and limit access to the Stone Arch Bridge and other areas. While simultaneously dealing with the challenges of dispersing all of these crowds of onlookers that were at these gatherings, the MPD responded to hundreds of calls for service at the same time, including 4 shooting incidents that happened in a very short period of time. When compared to last year, the MPD was overwhelmed and overrun. This year, we kept these groups on the run throughout the night. We made over a dozen arrests, and we're thankful that no one was seriously injured by this activity. Over the last 2 weekends, the city of Minneapolis has welcomed hundreds of thousands to our great city to enjoy the abundance of summer festivals, concerts, and celebrations that our communities have to offer. In preparation for this, the MPD engaged in significant planning efforts to ensure the city and all residents remain safe. This continues a trend that we have seen as we have seen decreases in all categories of serious violence throughout this year. Year to date, there have been 104 fewer shooting victims in our city. There have been 14 fewer murders. That decrease in gun violence continued throughout this weekend. And despite having the lowest staffing level in decades, we've already recovered nearly 600 illegal guns from our streets. In perspective, there were over 600 guns, slightly over 600 guns recovered in all of 2016. The reduction in gun violence was also reflected this weekend. There were, however, 12 shooting victims through the 4th of July weekend in Minneapolis, but this is compared to 25 during the same period last year. A focused enforcement initiative that we had throughout the weekend with the Violent Crime Unit of the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office resulted in 17 arrests and 10 additional illegal guns being recovered from our streets. We know that there are certainly limits to proactively eliminate instances of this dangerous behavior throughout our city, as we simply cannot be on every street corner at the same time. But due to our strategic operational planning, we kept those who were trying to disrupt on the run throughout the night, and the MPD and its officers were able to respond more quickly and much more effectively to this disruptive behavior. Are there any questions?
Yeah, Chief, you mentioned, I believe twice that there were no serious injuries, but my understanding is a young man
17 years old.
So to clarify, there were no serious injuries from these individuals discharging fireworks at people. Last year, there were injuries. There were victims of people who had fireworks shot at them. There was an individual in a park last night that was trying to set off a firework that did get injured.
That was his own, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. And was that Bloom Island Park?
I believe so. I can confirm that, yes. Yeah.
So last night, when you spoke to cameras, it was a much different tone because a lot
Yes.
of this stuff did not happen.
This was after midnight.
Describe
Yeah.
the difference in how all this happened in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, so when I spoke last night, I think it was around 10:30. And, you know, we only had, you know, throughout the city, until that point, there were lots of people setting off fireworks all throughout the city. The vast majority of that was, you know, being done in a way that, you know, people setting off fireworks, it wasn't this type of disruptive behavior. We had some reports of that until that night, and until that point in the night, and we had cleared out some groups, but it was really, I think after midnight, we had probably a couple hundred young people gathered in the area of the lake around B'dai Makaska, and that was where it became challenging, just because there were so many kids gathered, onlookers, to observe this activity, and they were parked deeply into some of the neighborhoods there, and it took us time to clear everybody out. And just because of the volume of that, then it became, you know, trying to keep disrupting them wherever they were then trying to go after that.
So then, just on that note, do you still feel that like closing the Stone Arch Bridge was a successful mitigation?
Yes, absolutely, yes. I mean, the areas where we had real problems last year, we disrupted traffic patterns, and we prevented some of those things from happening, but obviously we can't cover every inch of the city at the same time.
Chief, what concern do you have about this continuing on Wednesday night?
We continue to have plans. Like, this was not something that we began, you know, last night. This is something that we had been preparing for and had some instances throughout the night, but I have no specific information, you know, to expect anything specific tonight.
There was a clear effort to stop this. Why was last night different?
This was throughout the weekend. I mean, we did not know which night there could be a risk for this type of behavior. There was some degree of, you know, disruption and activity each night. We didn't know for sure that it was going to be last night.
Did you worry that this was inevitable?
We were worried that this could happen at any point during the weekend, yes. And we did everything that we could to prevent, you know, the repeat of this type of activity.
We've seen large groups doing this in cities. And are there any efforts in place to make sure that these mobs of people are not continuously doing this in Minneapolis?
Yeah, I mean, this is something, obviously, that we were working with our partners and, you know, actually trying to do some prevention work through community as well. But the majority of the problem that we see that it comes with this is it's not hundreds of kids that are there shooting off the fireworks, but it's these large groups that then, you know, they disrupt traffic, they're watching, they're observing, the onlookers, that then it becomes even more of a challenge to try and clear people out from watching what's going on. A lot of times, you know, the vast majority of the times, fireworks were going off last night throughout the city, people were there, people were watching, that kind of thing. What we were most concerned about is these types of groups that were either shooting them at each other or were shooting them into the roadway and that kind of thing. But it's challenging for us because we wind up having so many people that just want to stand around and watch. And that adds to and almost encourages some of the behavior.
Chief, have you learned of anything from last night that you're going to take into next year as far as the 4th of July goes?
Absolutely, yes. And we're going to continue to, you know, do an after action of our tactics and how we responded. And absolutely, we're looking to learn as much as we can to be better prepared next year.
Chief, just to follow up on the bridge closure, neighborhood groups were always critical of diverting so many resources there. They felt like that wasn't the right call, and it just ended up, in retrospect, making these groups more widespread throughout the city rather than targeted toward downtown. What's your assessment of that decision in retrospect? Because the neighborhood group called it an utter failure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not aware of anything specific on the bridge. The bridge was not closed until, I think, 10 o'clock last night. I think in general, the area of the bridge and the area around Gold Medal Park, you know, on the other side of the bridge, was much different than what had happened there last year. And I think it wouldn't have been responsible of us, you know, knowing that, you know, these are areas where problems had gathered without trying to disrupt traffic patterns and that kind of activity.
But did it prevent any bad behavior? You still saw it scattered throughout the city.
We saw, we saw some of this stuff scattered throughout the city, yes, but we can't obviously be on every street at every time. You know, obviously there's still more to do, but I think it shows, you know, it shows a lot of the challenges that we're facing trying to deal with this.
Any indication of the groups shooting at each other, the reason behind it? Are these rival groups or gangs, or is it just screwing around? I mean,
It seems like, yeah, it seems like a lot of kids screwing around.
What are the
Yeah.
ages of the people arrested?
So we have 11 juveniles and 5 adults. We can get you the specific ages, but I don't have all of them. And I can tell you, of the 11 juveniles, 6 were taken to the Youth Connection Center to be cited for disorderly conduct, and 5 were booked at the JDC.
Is it accurate to say the majority of these people were juveniles, or was it a mixture of the 200 you mentioned?
It's a tough call. I mean, the ages are so close. Teenagers, I think, is probably the most accurate way to describe it.
Now, the officer whose squad was hit by this barrage of fireworks, was he inside the...
He was inside the car. I was in the area. I was on most of these scenes myself last night. I spoke to him once we finally got, these hundreds of kids cleared out from that part of the city. And he was good. He was in good spirits, and we're thankful that, he wasn't injured. And I think, from everything I've seen, he handled it appropriately.
Was this Roman candles, or what kind of...
I believe they were Roman candles, just from, the video that I saw that's been circulating online. And it seemed like it's that type of, sort of rapid fire type fireworks. It left some, like soot marks on the hood of the radio car.
Chief, there were reports of officers responding with 40mm rounds. Can you talk about the use of force used in response to being targeted?
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously we are, we are trying to resolve all of these situations without ever having to use force at all. There was no use of 40mm like under a crowd control type condition. The use of 40mm was in response to imminent threats against people by these fireworks being shot at people. I'm aware of one of them included the person that was ultimately arrested by the officer, that individual. And I know there was a second instance where in the same area around the lake where there was someone shooting the fireworks at people, where there was a deployment of a 40mm, but that person, if someone was even struck by the 40mm, that person got away. They weren't able to capture the person.
Do you know if anybody was struck by a 40?
Yes. I believe, well, I know one was fired at the individual who was shooting at the police car. I don't know for sure if he was actually hit by it or not. And I know there was another instance where a person was fired at, where they were shooting at fireworks, but I don't know if that person was actually hit or not. But these instances, like all use of force, will be reviewed. And I want to, in particular, look at the entire response of our officers to this incident. And again, this is a situation where we are trying to de-escalate, and we're trying to get people to move along. We're trying to get people to stop shooting fireworks at people, but it's just not realistic to say we'll never have to use force. I mean, you've seen the videos of what our officers were up against.
What's your plan tonight?
Without, divulging specifics, we will have additional resources, including, resources from some of our partners available to respond. It's not something that is easily predictable, but we don't have anything specific to indicate that there's some specific threat tonight.
Are you seeing coordination of this activity on social media? Is it being organized there?
I can't comment with regards to the specifics. But certainly, it appears that there is communication between people, at least where to meet and that kind of thing.
Do you have any idea if these groups that are getting together are at random, or if it's some of the similar groups that we've seen across the metro that have had issues?
I don't have specifics about, groups or any specific individuals being elsewhere throughout the metro. We could get information for, in addition to, the arrests that I mentioned. I know there were a number of citations that were also released. And, we've had, particularly we've had these issues, around Dinkytown and this area of the city. And I know just from our experience dealing with kids over there, oftentimes it is a lot of kids from outside of the city.
Do you know if that's the case for what happened last night?
I don't know that for sure, but we can get at least the information that we have relative to who was arrested and who had citations issued.
It was a busy couple of weeks, but what would you say to Minneapolis citizens that just don't go to this stuff anymore because it's not safe?
Don't go to what?
Like fireworks.
Yeah, so there were not any fireworks displays officially for the city this year. There were thousands of people who were here for other events, including the Taste of Minnesota over this particular weekend, and then other events, Taylor Swift and Pride and all those things the weekend before. So it doesn't appear to have had an effect on attendance at those events at all.
What do you say to people that described last night as a war zone?
Last night, there were definitely instances of very egregious behavior, very dangerous behavior. And it is frustrating because it was it is increasingly challenging to deal with when there's so many people who are just simply coming to watch the show, and it makes us more difficult to clear out. So that's one problem that we're dealing with. But separately, we are also dealing with the other issues around gun violence that are typical in cities, around the country. And again, I would just reiterate what I said earlier. This weekend compared to last year, we had half the number of shooting victims, which is not a success, but that is progress. And that is continuing with the larger trend that we have been seeing year to date.
Do you know if there was any damage to property or vehicles that were in the area where the fireworks were being shot off?
I don't have specific information about damage to property. I'm not aware of it, but we could definitely check on that. I'm not aware of reports of that, other than like the police car that we saw in the video that had all those rockets or whatever they are shot at it. I mean, it was just like some soot on the hood that would probably come off if you washed it.
One more, maybe?
You mentioned reduction in staff,
Mhm.
but also reduction in violent crime. But
Mhm.
how are you navigating some of those challenges with having to reduce
Yeah.
staff? Then you have these big events going on.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you're doing that in violent crime, but incidents like this.
We've had a lot of help. It's all about collaboration. We've had a lot of help, both from all of the various law enforcement partners, some of which you saw last night out there with us. But in addition, collaboration with a lot of community groups that are stepping up and dealing with some of the areas and some of the problems in ways that police can't, but are taking some of that off of our plate. So, with the reduced staffing, we have to be very precise about what we're going to spend our time on. But like you saw last night, it ultimately comes down to boots on the ground. To being able to have police officers that are out there able to respond with sufficient numbers to deal with instances like this, but then also deal with, like we saw, a number of shootings happen in a very short period of time. So our cops are working a lot. They're working incredibly hard. But I would say that is not sustainable over the long term. And that we do need to have, higher sworn staffing levels because we cannot have so many police officers working so much and performing so many different functions.
And just a quick clarification of the 16 arrests, were those all by MPD? I know
Those were all by the MPD.
Okay, and were there additional arrests by other agencies?
I don't know. I don't know for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
There may have been, but I don't know.
Appreciate
Yeah.
your patience this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We all get to live in your country today.
You don't?
Oh, thank you, I appreciate that. I put to sleep.
What do you need for me to get up?
I have.
I sent it.
Yeah, I didn't text me a question. Sure, I think I saved them. Have you seen some couplers? Do you have an adapter for,
What are they gonna do with that?
Earbuds?
Like, I missed the first meeting.
I've heard people, they're gonna.
It's about